on, everybody? It's your boy Luke here for our DFS fades and sleepers for this week's John Deere Classic. It's Wednesday, we have a much better gauge on ownership, and now it's time to talk through the game theory aspect of DFS, which is by far the more important aspect of DFS when comparing between the game theory strategy side of things and then of course just projecting players. When you're looking at large field GPPs, you're trying to beat 50, sometimes even 100,000 other entries, and to take down that sort of contest, you're going to have to leverage to the field, get a little bit unique, and of course, try and not duplicate yourself, because when you take down that top end prize, you don't want to be splitting it with any of your best friends. So in this video, going to cover that side of DFS, sort of just the strategy and the type of thought process that I'm putting through making my lineups. So the three fades are going to be three players I expect to be a little bit overhyped this week, that I think might be a little bit overowned and potentially might even miss the cut. And then on the flip side of things, my sleeper picks are going to be three of the lower owned plays up top that I think maybe aren't getting enough attention from people in the industry. So that's the thought process here. Again, more of the strategy side of things that I think is by far the more important part of DFS. So a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. Let's go ahead and hop right on in. Alrighty, we're going to start it with our fades, and first off, going to touch on Webb Simpson, who is both the highest priced player on the slate, but also projected to be the highest owned at 28.5%. And while going into the week, I figured this would be a good skill set fit for the big guy. He's also the most expensive player, with Daniel Berger withdrawing, also with Davis Riley, a few of the other top end players dropping out of the field late. He's really in a tier of his own with a guy like an Adam Hadwin, and then I guess you could include Sahith Theegala there. All three of them garnering almost 20% ownership, if not more, for guys like a Hadwin and Simpson. And for me, I'd actually prefer to get to whoever's the lowest owned out of this bunch, so I'm still considering playing an Adam Hadwin or Sahith Theegala, but I'm only seeing myself playing at most, I should say, one of the three. Perhaps 0 out of the 3 when it's all said and done tonight. I just don't think they're worth the price tag. I mean, that's the one glaring issue here. When you take somebody like Webb, you can't live in that 8 to 9K range, which I see myself doing in a lot of my lineups, and even more than that, the shots gain metrics haven't been all that favorable. So if we take a look at his last 24 measured rounds, you'll see that he's losing almost half a stroke per round with the putter. And then at this golf course, though he's played here over the years, we haven't seen him here in the last 4 iterations. So since 2017 has not teed it up here. So though he has experience and actually some pretty solid finishes around this track, it just hasn't been any time recent. So if he's going to be super high owned, nearly 30% owned, he's dealing with the putting issues where he was missing plenty of 5 to 10 footers last week. I just can't trust him at those sort of levels. So going to be a clear fade for me. And honestly, we'll have to see come tonight whether I'm playing Adam Hadwin or Sahith Theegala, but there's a great argument to be made to also fade those two. Next up, we've got Chez Reavie at $7,900, and I've got him at just 15.8% right now, but I'd argue that's still well too high. So if we take a look at the shots gained metrics, he's kind of the odd man out in this range, where he's losing both the putter and off the tee, and the only category he's gaining in is right on approach, right? Or I guess marginally with the around the green play, but hardly a gainer, and overall a loser with his shots gained metrics. Everyone outside of Cam Champ really bucks that trend. I mean, most players towards the middle, the top of the 7K range are looking at gaining at least half a stroke per round overall with their shots gained total, if not closer to a stroke. And obviously, the guys $300 to $400 more expensive than him are significantly better, right? Or gaining close to half a stroke per round off the tee, a third of a stroke per round on approach. I just don't understand the price, and then of course I don't understand the fact that he's 15.8% owned. Now he's certainly made a living at the short positional tracks, but I'd be willing to take a stab on this sort of player if he was single digit owned at this price tag, right? If he was like 5-6% owned, that's a completely different story than when he's nearly 15-16% owned. You'd have to allocate 30-35% of your lineups to him to get adequate leverage. A lot of people go with double the field for their number, right? You'd still be taking 30% on a Chez Reavie, and to me that's just ridiculous. I don't think you could play 30% Chez Reavie this week and really feel confident about those picks. And now maybe he comes in a little bit lower owned because people share the same sentiment as me. Maybe he's only 11 to 12% owned, but even at that number, do you still want to take 25% of them in your lineups? I mean, I know I sure as hell don't. So that's why I'm going to be off of him this week at $7,900, and why he's just a clear fade for me. I don't really think you need to think all that much about it. The shots gained metrics do not look good for the fella. And lastly, the last fade is Adam Svensson at $7,700, and honestly, that hurt to say. I absolutely love Svensson at most PGA Tour events, but I've got him at 17.7% owned, and there is a little bit of a narrative going around where apparently he's played well at a Korn Ferry Tour event here, and that's just not the case. The event I've seen a lot of people pulling that data from is actually the event in Columbus, Ohio, so I'm not sure why people are getting that sort of a correlation between the golf courses. The event here is actually won by Sungjae Im back in the day, so Sungjae has a win around this golf course. Adam Svensson does not. So if that's why he's going to be nearly 18% owned, then, let people go on that false narrative. That's just not reality. He's playing decent golf. Obviously, he was matched up last week with Jon Rahm during a round, so people got to see him play all 18 holes. He is gaining with the two most important categories right off the tee and on approach, but not a very good short game player. So I think he's adequately priced. I would have loved to play Svensson if maybe he was even just 11 to 12% owned, but even more so than Chez Reavie, you have to play 35, maybe even like 38 to 40% of Adam Svensson to get adequate leverage to the field. And if you're just going with the 2x roll, you're at least playing 35%, which again, I'd ask you that same question. Do you really feel confident putting him in over a third of your lineups this week? And I think the obvious answer there would be no. So for Adam Svensson, probably going to be a fade for me, particularly because I think all of it is narrative driven and it's just fake news. Alrighty, and now we've got our sleeper picks, the guys that I actually think have a good chance to succeed that are perhaps being a little bit overlooked. So with our first sleeper, it's going to be Jason Day at an even $10,000. And though he's not coming in with the best form, he's also not coming in with the worst of form. So if we take a look at the shots gained metrics, you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. Gaining significantly with the short game categories, which you love to see, but the ball striking has of course started to lag behind. A lot of that has been health driven. It's been obvious that he's dealing with that back issue, but we also have seen the flip side of that, right? Just look at the Zozo Championship, the CJ Cup early in the year. That's when he started to make that run in the fall and really was starting to scare a lot of the tour, right? He looked like the Jason Day of old. So though he's a wild card, there's a reason why he's single digit owned. If he wakes up and doesn't have the back issues, I mean, this is somebody capable of winning on the PGA Tour. That was readily apparent during the fall swing. The issue is you don't want to play him when he's chalky, right? So I have him at 7.5% projected ownership right now, which is not anything out of the ordinary. And at those sort of levels, I'm willing to bite on 15, maybe even 20% this week, because if that upside is there, I mean, you're getting an absolute diamond in the rough that, could very easily separate yourself from the field. I mean, if he's 6-7% owned and ends up winning in this event, I mean, first off, you're absolutely going to have him for these large field GPPs, but even more so than that, you're going to have the absolute nuts. You're going to have a very simple avenue to making your lineup unique, and you're not going to be worrying about duplicating yourself with 100 to 1,000 other entries. So I like Jason Day quite a bit there, especially because he's single digit owned, tends to like bent grass as well. You can see he gains over a third of a stroke per round on that surface, and though he hasn't played here all that often, you can see over the last 4 events has not played here. I'm not all that worried about it, right? But the guy like Webb Simpson, I'm worried about it because he's 30% owned, right? You're talking about a single-digit owned Jason Day who's dealing with health issues. There's a lot of things that you could use to trash his game. I'm buying in on the upside, right? I'm hoping that things go right for Jason Day, fully knowing that it's likely that he goes out there, is dealing with back issues, might have a top 20 floor, something like that. Probably not winning this event if he's dealing with the back issues, but who knows, right? We've seen crazier things happen in golf before. Next up, we've got Charles Howell III at $9,300. And frankly, I thought he was going to be like 20% owned. The play makes a lot of sense. The recent form is starting to trend for Charles Howell III, and he loves himself these short positional tracks. So if we take a look at the recent form metrics, just to give an idea of what was popping, you can see he's gaining in every category but the putter. And that's kind of his MO, right? He's not the best putter on the PGA Tour. Even on bent grass, it's not his favorite surface, but hey, he's a gainer. Gains 0.3 shots per round on bent grass. So if there's any surface where you want to take him and try to find that bounce back performance, it's on these bent grass greens. It's a short golf course, all about hitting greens and hitting fairways. That is exactly what he gets done. So that's why I thought he'd be 20% owned. It's a relatively straightforward play. The course history, I don't think he's played here that much, but it's been decent, right? Top top 10 finish, top 25, another top 20 finish in 2017. So while he hasn't showed up here every year during his PGA Tour career, when he has, he's made this place an absolute ATM. So at $9,300, he's one of the few guys that even if he was 20% owned, I think I would have been playing this week, right? In like 30, maybe even 35% owned, because I have the confidence in him having that success. Not only does he have the skill set fit, he's playing well of late and has favorable splits on these putting surfaces. So like I'm there at 13.9%, going to have at least 25, maybe even 30% in my player pool. And now lastly, we've got single digit owned CT Pan, and another guy like Jason Day that deals with health issues, sometimes is forced to withdraw, and for that reason, people are going to avoid him. And this week, it's going to be one that I'm taking chances on because these guys are going to be single digit owned, and they're arguably top 5 players in this field. I mean, CT Pan, at least based on the shots gained metrics, has looked outstanding for quite some time. So you can see he's gaining off the tee, but most significantly, gaining 0.7 of a stroke per round with his approach play. But even over his last 50 measured rounds, you can see it holds up, right? Still gaining off the tee. Maybe, well, sorry, I was on the wrong side there. Sorry, my bad. Lanto Griffin was the one with the sick approach stats there, but still gaining on approach, still close to a neutral off the tee play, and just overall a consistent player, right? He's not going to be the worst putter on tour. He's going to be pretty close to neutral in that category, slightly above average in every other category. And in general, in this field specifically, you know, that's going to be enough to get it done, right? You're not going to have to do anything special to finish in the top 10 here. And given the fact that we've seen him win at these short positional tracks, just think about the RBC Heritage there at Harbor Town, you know, another short golf course where it's all about hitting fairways and hitting greens. I think he's being slept on a lot more than he should be, right? Because, you know, to get leverage here, you're playing 12, 15% of them, right? You don't have to play 20, 25% or, you know, 35 to 40% like some of the sleeper picks we were talking about before. You can take a trivial amount in your 150 lineups and really get the job done here. So I think you'd be remiss not to take a shot on this guy because, you know, much like a Jason Day, if he comes out here with any semblance of health, you know, he could win this by 4 to 5 shots. Alrighty, guys, that's all I've got for the fades and sleepers. Before you hop on out of here, let me know in the comments who you're fading this week, and of course, who your biggest sleeper pick is. And as per usual, going to have our weekly DFS live stream tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you stop on by there where I cover the weather, my projections and player poll, and of course, any of your live questions to get you prepped for this week's contest. So highly recommend you check that out. I will put a link in the description there so you can go ahead and set a reminder. But also, make sure you smash that like button. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel here, I would highly recommend you do that too. That way you don't miss any of the content I'm posting in the future, like the live stream tonight. But even more importantly, we have showdown content throughout the weekend, prize picks videos, and even some live golf content for the contests they're doing here for Friday and Saturday. So a lot to drop. Stuff that you don't want to miss, at least if you like money. If you like winning in your DFS contest, make sure you subscribe to the channel. But until next time, guys, best of luck with all of your lineups for this week, and I'll catch you guys at the live stream.